Hello, everyone, and welcome to India Ratings podcast on replenishment structures. So, what is a replenishment structure, and how does it differ from a traditional PTC structure? This question, along with many others, will be answered in today's podcast. I am Rajashri Roy, Associate Director, and with me today is Avani Shah, Senior Analyst with the India Ratings Structured Finance Analytical Team. Welcome, Avani, and thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rajashri. I am delighted to be part of this podcast.
So, Avani, what exactly is a replenishment structure?
Rajashri, a replenishment structure is an addition to PTC structure. As the name suggests, such structure allow replenishing additional loan in the transaction as per predefined eligibility criteria. For an initial period, say 3 to 12 months, also called as replenishment period, the amount collected from the underlying pool will be used to replenish additional loan from the originator instead of making principal payments to the PTC investor.
Interesting. So you mentioned that this is an addition to the traditional PTC structure, right? Could there be additional risks involved as well?
Yes, there are. There are certain intrinsic risks attached to this transaction which may not arise in a traditional PTC structure. Replenishment is done based on predefined eligibility criteria. So, just to give you an example of a predefined eligibility criteria would be the minimum bureau score required for any new loans to be added to the pool should be 700. However, if your initial weighted average bureau score was to say 750 and the new loans are added in the range of 700 plus, then there are chances that the overall asset quality might be impacted in such a scenario.
Okay.
Secondly, to add to this is the loans that are paying are being getted replenished. So to say non-paying loans or the delinquent loans, they stay in the pool. A transaction may or may not have a charge off mechanism. Charge off mechanism is basically when a defaulted loans are closed and amount is paid back to investor. However, in both the scenarios, with or without charge off mechanism, the percentage of default loan as a percentage of outstanding pool would increase, and this could expose the transaction to higher delinquency than that in a traditional PTC structure.
I see. So are there any other risks?
Yes, there is an effect on excess credit spread. So, the excess spread is the difference between the pool yield and the PTC yield. So, in case the interest on replenishment loans are on the lower side of the defined eligible band, or they are lower than the initial spread that was available in the transaction, then there could be a compression seen in such cases. Also, such transaction might have a replenishment reserve. Replenishment reserve is where, in case originator is short of eligible loan, the excess collection is parked in this reserve. Having such facility in the transaction can increase the negative carry for that period and thereby further contracting the spread.
All right. Are there any other risks further?
Yes. So as I stated that the pool is replenished. So there is much dependency on the originator to replace these loans. Also, as you know that the collection is first used to purchase the new loans. So there is no amortization seen in this transaction. This could delay the building up of credit enhancements.
So there seem to be quite a bit of things to watch out for in such transactions, which leads to the question, why would an issuer or an investor opt for such a transaction?
That's a very good question, Rajshri. In such kind of transaction, we can securitize asset which have shorter tenor. Replenishing the loan would increase the door-to-door tenor of the transaction, which might be very helpful in case investor is needs a longer maturity. Additionally, originator is also able to securitize higher volumes without increasing the investor's exposure to that asset.
Got it. So just quickly circling back to the risks that we monitor in such transactions, from an India ratings perspective, can you tell me how the agency would be treating such risks?
Sure. Firstly, while calculating the default in the transaction, we might not consider the original pool but consider the possible pool. So, possible pool would be something which would be in the eligibility criteria band. Also, we ensure that we build an appropriate default in such structures. Our model is built in expected default separately for every replenishing pool, along with the original pool. In case the eligibility criteria allows replenishing of the loan with a lower interest rate, then we also stress the excess spread that is available.
Okay. So, any last message for your listeners on this structure?
Yes. As mentioned earlier, there are certain additional risks in this transaction. But if these are addressed appropriately, then replenishment can be a useful tool in a securitization market.
Great. Thank you for your time, Avni. So, for all of those listening, India Ratings has recently published a wire on the replenishment structure, which is available on our website. And the link is also available in the description of the podcast. So, thank you all for listening and goodbye.
Thank you, Rajshri.